Here we go. Well, thank you all for coming. I want to say hello, and I hope you all had a great spring break. And thank you for being here the day after spring break is all over. I'm sure we're all kind of exhausted from the week, but also maybe happy to have kids back at school. This is the fourth in our series with Chinatown Service Center, and I want to introduce Yi Zhang and Xiaowen Li, who are going to talk about rewards, consequences, and discipline. And as usual, we are going to record this, and so we will put it up and send it out through all the PTAs next week. So over to you, ladies. Thanks.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. Like Kristen talked about, it's the first day after spring break, so we really appreciate you guys being here tonight with me and Xiaowen. So tonight's topic is on rewards, consequences, and discipline. My name is Yi. I'm a associate marriage and family therapist at Chinatown Service Center. I used to work at my practicum with um, kids like elementary and middle school and high schoolers as well and their families at a school-based setting. Uh, right now, I work at CSC, mostly working with families, family sessions with both the parents and their kids. So yeah, I have some like background working with this population and talk about, parent children conflicts, things like that. And Shawan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Yi. Hi, parents. So wonderful to see everyone, some new face, some familiar face and names. And first, I want to congratulations, you all survived the spring break. And how awesome the first day after spring break, y'all guys are willing to attend a parenting workshop. I think that shows some strengths in you guys, especially regarding the parenting. So I'm APCC, individual professional counselor. And in my grad, I specialize in kids and teenagers and parents. The reason this is the population I really have that passion. I do believe that making a change with children and teenagers, because they are the future of our humanity, right? It sounds cheesy, but honestly, it's true. And I also understand that along the way that parenting, how struggle it can be and how difficult it can be. So kids, teenager and parents, they are the population that I really enjoy working with. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then same thing, I work in CSC Chinatown Service Center right now. Even though my passion is working with young adult and teenager and children and parents, but we still serve all ages. Yeah. Okay. So next slide.
So for today, just as the previous sessions, the same thing. Feel free to introduce yourself a little bit and share with us like how many children you have, as well as their ages. I know some parents really, have specific questions they want to ask. So also to feel free to leave your questions in the chat. We will address all those in the Q&A session as well, or you can leave the questions till the end when we have the question and answer, at the very end. So today we will look at positive discipline, rewards, and consequences. We know those are some concepts maybe as parents you're very familiar with. And we want to have this discussion with every one of you about how to um, discipline and teach our kids better, so they can be a better member of our community in the future.
Okay.
All right.
I'm seeing some ages right now. I do
Mm-hmm.
see the youngest one so far is 8 years old, but we also have some quite a lot of teenagers and 20s. Like the oldest one I'm seeing right now is 20s, Kristen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason we are asking for ages, like we are hoping that by giving some examples, we can give it to more fit into your need. What kind of behavior or teenager for young adult or like teenager kids. We have the baby too. Okay, great.
Mhm. Yeah, so the topic of discipline, I know a lot of people, me included, when we think about discipline, it's usually as kind of have a negative connotation, right? It's very like top down in a sense. If you look up in the dictionary, discipline will be explained as a certain way to have other people like obey the rules. So I think as parents, which is not wrong, is that the goal of parenting a lot of times is we want the kids to follow the rules we set up, right? So I think in many, many ways, the authoritative piece of parenting is there through discipline. Some ideas about discipline is I really like this concept. It's called positive discipline or positive parenting. So some of you may have heard that before, even like positive teaching at school, right? So definitely there's like top-down power dynamic. We as parents, we hold that authority over the kids, but the idea will be a little different because the goal of positive discipline is to teach young people to become responsible, respectful, and resourceful members of their communities, because researchers have shown that kids who have been hardwired to be connected with others, and the children feel a sense of the connection to their family, to the community, they become less likely to be misbehaved when they grow up. So the idea of parenting and discipline is not just ask kids to follow the rules. It's actually a good opportunity to teach them how to use some like social and communication skills to maybe negotiate and to compromise, right? We can do this like collaboratively with the kids so they can carry those skills they learned at home. And then when they grow up, they can engage with their peers, their partners, and their new families and the society, workplace, etc. So with that perspective, the positive discipline is really help kids to learn all those things, and they can be a good, a respectful member of the communities in the future. The five criteria for positive discipline is the first one is be kind and firm at the same time. Kind doesn't mean like giving in. It doesn't mean like if your kids being unreasonable in a sense, you have to like give in and listen to whatever they say. Kind means that showing the empathy, showing that I really hear you, I understand you where you come from, right? And firm means that our message can be solid. It's like um I require you. I hear you and I require you to participate, to engage. Engage doesn't mean like you have to follow whatever I say, but to mean that you can engage into the conversation we have, maybe like making rules together, maybe like how we can help achieve the goal together. We know a lot of times parents also struggle with like, yeah, we are stressful a lot of times, right? That's very true of life that sometimes it's very difficult to manage if you have to like go out by 7 p.m. today and your kids is not ready. Of course, a lot of those moments we will feel frustrated. And I do want to emphasize on like that's a lot of pressure for parents to be like functional in many, many ways for the family system. Um, but it's not just a top down kind of order, it's also inviting the kids to follow and to making the rules all together. So that's the essence of like positive discipline. The second point is to promote that sense of belonging and significance. like we said earlier, it's important to have the kids feel they're heard. Their opinions are also very important, and they can make the part of like making discipline and making rules altogether. The positive discipline has long-term effectiveness, meaning that sometimes we use maybe punishment. Kids may follow for a short period of time, but in the long term, this may cause some like mental health stress to them. It hurts their self-esteem and all those. But using a positive discipline approach, it has long-term effectiveness. Like they feel really connected with the parents. As I mentioned earlier, it's important because it teaches valuable social and life skills for a good character, about like being respectful, being concerned for others, and having good idea of like problem solving, and to cooperate with others as well. So something really different, I think, from positive discipline than discipline, the traditional discipline, is that we actually want to promote the capability of the children, because we see kids as, they're born naturally good, right? They're not manipulative, or they need to be controlled in any ways, but they actually have a lot of creativity and capability. They can help to form those kind of rules altogether, rather than like they're bad in many, many ways. So that's just the shift of the perspective of display. Some tools. The first one is mutual respect. As I mentioned earlier, right? We as parents, we also feel stressful. We have a lot of emotions. There's a lot of stress, just parenting and, doing your job and, running errands, taking care of others. So definitely we want to send a message that respect the needs of yourself as an adult, because we need to be aware of our emotions, right? What's coming up for us when we having that some interactions or differences with kids. Also to see the children's needs in those moments, and really be there and emphasize on their feelings and their needs. The second one is to identify the belief and the reason behind the behavior, because the positive discipline really believes that there's no bad children, there's only bad behaviors. And for kids to have certain bad behaviors, we want to know what are some, ideas behind that. Do they feel they are not paying enough attention, or they feel like jealous towards something, right? There's something happening in inside of their heart, their mind. So we really want to get to know that instead of just fixated at the behavior. Also, the positive discipline um, puts the emphasis on effective communication and problem solving together, because this is a good chance to teach the children, we have a problem we face all together. Let's see how can we solve that together, using our creativity, using our wisdom, and to through those calm communication with each other. We know sometimes it's easier for us parents to be frustrated and maybe like lash out and lose our patience, right? But at the same time, this type of communication is not that effective to problem solving. Even thinking about that, it only creates more problems. Um, yeah, and it's connected to the next point, is that it focus on the solution instead of punishment, because we know punishment is only for short term, maybe behavior change, right? Their beliefs, the reasons is still there, and it's not for the long term change in the family. The last part is connected to what I'm going to talk about reward is like encouragement to encourage the efforts and the improvements that your children has been put into the change. Really acknowledge those improvements and their efforts. This can make them validated and they feel seen by the parents. And this can help with their long term self esteem and empowerment. Like I said earlier, the goal is for them to be a better member of the community when they grow up so they can engage better with the outside world. I'm also going to talk a little bit about reward because this is such a key concept. I think a lot of parents might be interested about. So when we think about reward, I think the first thoughts we as parents may have is that, oh, it's about, some food or like a chocolate, right? Or some toys your kids want or some like advanced, technology to play games. Those are the things they all want, right? But we do want to say rewards are not necessarily material things. And most of the time, rewards that are like encouragement, validation, affection, they are even better than those material things because we know that as parents, there's more we can give to the kids. So, some ideas about rewards is the first thing is about the extra time um, your kids can spend with you. Maybe it's only like 20 minutes every day, having dinner together, maybe like 10 minutes bedtime story time, um, especially I think with like if you have more children at your household, paying that one-on-one time, plan ahead with each one of your child and spend time with them can make them really special. So that can be one type of the rewards. Another one is affection, like giving them a hug, even show them a smile, give them a pat on the back, all those body language, of course, with praise, your words, right? Those can make our kids really feel heard and loved, and they can carry those type of rewards with them. And I do want to talk more about praise. I think this is really important and interesting topic with reward because a lot of times we give like verbal acknowledgement, validation, praise to our kids, and those can be so crucial um, in their development. So some suggestions is that when you give praise to your kids, use a label and be as specific as possible. For example, if you notice something your kids did is really good, they share like the Play-Doh with their friends. So instead of just saying like good job or you're being so generous today, you can say like good job at sharing the Play-Doh with your friend. So you're really focusing on the behavior they did so they can have a better sense of, what they did. What they did is really great. And the second one is to praise baby steps. We know we usually have a big goal or end goal, what we want our kids to achieve. Maybe like for example, the common example we have is that we want to be on time, leave at the door at 7 a.m. And the kids may be like, don't want to get up, don't want to dress up and all those things. So we know as parents, we focus on like, I have to leave at 7 a.m., right? And you want your kids to be ready by then. But for some kids who really struggle with that, we want to make the whole process different steps. like maybe waking up on time, brush their teeth and wash their face, clean up, eat their breakfast, and all those baby steps, and really praise all those things instead of just focusing on get ready at the very end, because those baby steps also lead to the ultimate goal, right? And the third suggestion we have is to praise for the efforts as well as the outcome, because a lot of times we focus on the end goal, the results and the success, right? Although all those things are worth acknowledging, we also want to praise for the efforts they put into it. For example, if your kid win a basketball play, something you can say is like, good job, playing such a good game, right? And you can also say, good job in putting the efforts and really trying. So the praise can emphasize both on the efforts and the outcome, depending on the situation. Maybe they lose, right? You really want to emphasize on the efforts. And the last one is connected to what I just talked about. The praise can be words. It can also be body language, because we also show affection through those different ways. Give them a thumb up, give them hugs, a smile, pat on the back, all those things. And the last point of rewards is try to avoid comparison about your kids with like maybe other kids or even with their siblings, because every kid can be different, right? The goal they have and the progress they made can be very individualized. So when you give them the praise and the reward, please just avoid comparing them to others, but comparing them to themselves. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Yi. So after reward, as you know, we are going to talk about consequence, right? But before we really get into this topic, I would like parents to take a moment to think about what's the differences between consequence and punishment. Are they the same, or do you think there are differences? And if they are different, what's the differences between two of them? Okay, and welcome parents to put down your answers if you like to. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can carry on. It's okay. Thank you. Oh, I see. Let's see. I see one answer. Give me 1 second. Consequence can be good or bad. There are neutral consequence too. Perfect. Yes, definitely. Consequence sometimes. Consequence is a result after an action, right? So it can be a good consequence, negative consequence. So definitely they are different than punishment. But today I want to also more emphasize on the goal and the motivation after behind consequence and punishment. So punishment, the goal of the punishment is to shame our kids or make them feel guilty or impose our authority, our parent authority, right? And the motivation beyond the punishment actually comes from the place of our own emotions or a need to maintain that parent authority or maintain that control. We want to control our kids' behavior. But the consequence, the goal is more for teaching, maintain our kids to accountable, and maintain that safety. So consequence teach, but punishment I should control. Okay, that's the main differences between consequence and punishment. And also, so now we know consequences actually help to teach our kids, maintain them to be accountable for their actions, right? And also to maintain their safety. So consequences is actually also giving kids a chance to make mistake. This is actually a learning opportunity for them to take responsibility, to be accountable, and learn problem solving also, right? And so before I actually, there's a quote I really like, and I would like to share with everyone. That's the Gandhi's saying. Okay, okay, E, please, the next slide.
Do you want to read the quote?
Yes, somehow it's really small to me today.
Oh, okay.
Violet, oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah, I
please.
can do that. It's like violence can be seen as any attempt to impose one's will at another or to control another's behavior and practices.
Yes. So how interesting when we parents really want to control our kids' behavior, it can be seen as a violent, right? So are we controlling them or we are helping them to promote that desirable behavior? I think that motivation, that approach will be very different. Okay. Now let's go back to consequence. So consequence we can put into two big categories: natural consequence and logical consequence. And for the natural consequence, I think I think Tamami, I hope I pronounce your name right. Now you definitely get to the point. Consequence can be good one or bad ones, right? That's more for natural consequence. So for the natural consequence, okay, natural consequence are those things that happened after our kids' actions. Okay. And those actions, those results can be good or can be bad. And also most important, since we talk about natural, so it means that those results are not delivered by parents. Okay, it's without parents' involvement. It could be natural, society, or other people such as teacher, neighbors, or other adults in the household. Okay. Okay. So what are some natural consequences? I believe a lot of people will have this question, right? For example, if your kids refuse to eat dinner today because there's broccoli they don't like, all kids don't like broccoli, right? There are broccoli in the noodles or something, they refuse to eat dinner. The natural consequence will be they will feel hungry in the middle of night. Okay. And what else can be a natural consequence? For example, our teen kids, they stay up late to play video games. So this morning, they couldn't get up on time, so they are late for the school. Since they are late for school, the teacher asked them to stay after school for extra time. That would be a natural consequence also. Okay. Or for example, some kids or teens, they shoplift clothes at store. So what's the natural consequence? They got free clothes from the store because shoplift, right? But if they get caught, they might get arrested or they got into some legal consequence also. So see, there is a good consequence and bad consequence, okay? Or some kids, you always ask them to clean up their toys, but they did not. So they left their toy outside the garden, the toy got stolen. That's not also a natural consequence also. And if you really pay attention to natural consequence, it can be a very effective parenting skills, right? But there are two things you need to pay attention to. First, the consequence has to be undesirable. For example, shoplift, right? Shoplift, if they never get caught, then they get free clothes for them. So it's actually desirable consequence. So it means that they will continue doing it. So for the natural consequence, we want to use it as a parenting, then we have to make sure the consequence is an undesirable one. Also, the parents do not interfere with the natural consequence. For example, the kids refuse to eat dinner, so they feel hungry at the middle of the night. And then we give them a bowl of cereal. Of course, they would love a cereal instead of a dinner with broccoli, right? So once we interfere with the natural consequence, then that natural consequence won't be effective, okay? The next one will be the logical consequence. Logical consequence Same is a result as your child's actions, but those are carried out by parents or their caregivers. Okay. And what are some of the logical consequences? It actually also can, a lot of people will view it as a house rules. Okay. For example, there's a house rule that you have to finish your dinner, then you get to eat dessert. If you did not finish your dinner, then the consequence is you cannot eat your dessert. Okay. Or for example, there's a house rule, like if you ride a bike, you can only ride on the sidewalk. But if you ride it into the street, then the parents can take the bike away. That's also a logical consequence. Or for teens, sometimes we talk about, oh, they are able to borrow parents' car to drive to pre-approved activities. So if they borrow a car but they drive to a not approved activity, then we take away their privilege. So they are not allowed to borrow the car for the rest of the weekend or for the rest of the month. Okay. So the logical consequence, there's two things that I think that stood out. One is timeout. A lot of parents, especially parents with young kids, they do timeout. Timeout, they have been shown to be effective parenting skills, but also one thing that parents need to put in mind is that timeout have to carry out in appropriate ways. For example, if you clearly see your kids, they are emotionally distraught, but they don't know how to calm themselves, or they are clearly struggle, they need comfort, right? Then at that time you tell them to do timeout, you might do more harm than help. Okay. So for that kind of situation, I would definitely encourage parents to do timeout with your kids. So we stop everyone, including kids and parents, we stop the activity altogether. Start with your kids. It doesn't have to continue verbal comforting. You can just sit with your kids next to them, right? Be calm. And kids actually learn better when they are seeing their parents and see what they are doing. So by you regulating your emotion in front of them, they are learning to regulate their emotion too. Okay. So timeout is a good, effective coping parenting skill, but definitely you have to apply in an appropriate way. Okay. And not just timeout, go to your room. Sometimes it actually might make things worse. Okay. And for teens or actually young kids too, taking away privilege is also a very good logical consequence. The privilege could be the dessert, right? Or video time, or time with friends, or borrow cars. Those are the privilege. Okay. Okay. Please, next slide. So here, now parents will think about how can we set up reward and consequence. Okay, so I just realized there's one thing I forgot to mention for the consequence. It's like before we conduct, I'm sorry. So let's go back to consequence a little bit. Thank you, Yi. So before we carry out that consequence, I think it's still very important for parents to listen, understand the reason why they broke the house rule. Okay. And what is their need? And even maybe come up solutions together. It doesn't mean you don't have to carry out consequence. Yes, you still do. But having that extra component of listen to your kids, understand their need, understand their feeling, but hold them accountable for their behavior. It actually promotes them to have that independent thinking and promote them to understand what kind of situation, what kind of behavior is more appropriate for them in the future. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you, Yi. Please, the next slide. Okay, so how to set up reward and consequence? First thing I would say, let's set up realistic expectations. Okay, so usually this kind of workshop we carry in person, and we will usually ask parents to bring your kids in, because at the end of this workshop, we actually have family do their small discussion to set up reward and consequence together, and the facilitator would just join in to kind of help to shape the reward and consequence. But today, because it's online and also parents attend the sessions, so we were mainly giving ideas. Parents might feel welcome to adjust to your family culture. Okay, so the first thing I would say is set up that realistic expectation. Okay, so there are two things. First, what's realistic expectation? What kind of desired behavior you wish your kids to have? For example, there's a mom bring her kids in, and the mom talk about how kids struggle academically and how her grades are bad. So I kind of know, like mom said, now they are getting all F. So I asked mom, so what grade do you want them to be? She said A's in one semester. Okay. When I hear it, I'm wondering, so for mom and dad, if you are the kids and your mom asks you to raise your grade all F to all A's in one semester, how you feel? Would you say, yeah, let's do this, I can do this, or like, never mind, I would give up, right? So that realistic expectation. So I kind of have mom and kids talk together, and then they came up with expectation is they will do from F to C. And for the kids, they think it's more doable. But they are willing to continue trying after they reach C, right? So that's the more realistic expectation that kids feel like they are able to do it, and they also feel the motivation to do it. Okay. And the other thing would be, so that realistic expectation actually help kids to generate their own motivation. They want to reach that goal. And that's all about that positive discipline, right? Because we want to promote that autonomy kids, their own desire, what is right, what is wrong to do. Okay. And the other thing that is, don't change too much thing at once. There is a young mom once came in with their young kids, and mom talk about how many behavior issue the young boy have. So I asked mom, so what exactly you want the young boy to change? I said, oh, I want help him to when he got home, he know how to put down his shoes, put on his coat, do homework, and homework how the way the homework do, and then how to help with the house chore, all kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And same thing, right? Same idea. If a person asks you to change overall everything, would you feel like you're up to do it? No, right? Too much, too many things. Where should I begin, right? So there's no motivation. They will give up in the beginning, like, never mind. I would never be able to do all the things, right? So realistic expectation, more close to the mini goal first, right? And then don't change too many things at once. Now let's talk about boundaries, okay? So parents, you definitely have your boundary. Think about it before you have that conversation with your kids. The boundary can be, what's the bottom line for you? It can be the risky behavior, it can be the safety, or sometimes it can be the financial, right? Family have budgets, financial. Think about the boundary and think about what is your bottom line. Okay. Now, as the communication skill and tips, language. Language is also very important. You actually tie to the expectations. Okay. So when we talk about reward consequence and the desired behavior, the house rule, we want to be specific about the behavior we want them to be. For example, I would like you to finish dinner. And focus when it's dinner time, we focus on finishing the dinner, sit on the table, eating dinner together. Okay. And then we don't do, a lot of parents would like to do is what I don't want my kids to do. I would say, stop playing around. Don't watch TV. Eat your food. Don't be a picky eater. Okay. So we have a lot of don't, but kids don't know. So what do you want me to? So that language is very important. We promote what we want them to be, what we want them to do, instead of what we don't want them to do. Okay. That actually help kids to promote their motivation. Instead of whatever they do is a don't. Okay. And then the tone, actually, there's one thing I forgot to type in too, is the tone and the facial expressions. It can be very powerful too when we are communicating with your kids. I don't know how many parents know about the still face experiences. There's a psychologist done experience that decades ago, how babies, infant interact with mom. So there's two sessions. One session is mom interacting with baby with their normal facial expressions and the normal interaction with the baby. They be joyful, happy, relaxing. And then the next session is mom actually close off her face. Her face becomes still. There's no facial expressions. And the baby tried to communicate with mom and become frustrated, angry, sad, hopeless. So baby and mom, baby still don't know how to communicate in language, right? But showing the face, the baby can pick up so many cues, right? Now let's to say our young kids or our teenagers. So that facial expression and tones actually says a lot of things. So it's actually also very important for parents when you are conducting this conversation, how to set up reward and consequence, that tone, how to remain calm and encouraging is very important. Next thing is very important. So I'm going to say 3 times. Listening, listening, and listening. Listening to your kids. What is their need? What are their feelings? Okay. Because you want to set up a reward and consequence they want. And they want to, the reward they want and the consequence they want to avoid. Okay. So that's why we want to involve the kids to have this conversation. And if we involve them in, we don't listen to their need and their feelings, then that kind of reward and consequence is actually not effective at all. For them, it's meaningless, right? And for them, it's meaningless. They won't cooperate. Then there's no meaning of doing this, right? So listening to their need, listening to their feelings, and be flexible. Be flexible. It is, so fast forward 2 things. When we are setting up reward consequence, I believe parents, most of the time, we will have very different idea of the reward consequence when we talk to our kids, right? So be flexible, give in, negotiate with your kids, okay? And either side, they all have to cooperate. Be flexible with the reward, be flexible with the consequence, and then keep your boundary, your bottom line in your mind. Okay, so the kids actually learn the same thing too. They learn to communicate calmly and they learn to be flexible. So now it's not like teenager. A lot of teenagers will be like, either my way or highway or freeway, right? So they are learning to be flexible, to cooperate with their parents too. Okay. Okay, so these are the how to set up reward and consequence. And of course, there are also a lot of tips. So parents, if you feel like you have question, now is the time to think about it, and then we can definitely talk more in Q&A. So there's another quote. Today is quote day. I have a lot of quote. And this one, I also love it. It's that children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them, right? So how to set up reward consequence? This conversation between parents and kids is actually a great opportunity for kids to learn parents' behavior, to learn parents' motivation, right? And to learn parents' emotional regulation, all kind of stuff. It's a great learning opportunity for kids and the whole family. So I will definitely, so now there's a HW, Kristen, before the session, we talk about what is HW. It's not my initial. It's actually homework. Okay. The homework for parents. I know at this age, nobody like homework. We are far away from homework. But I really encourage parents today, when you finish this workshop, think about it and have a conversation to set up reward and consequence with your kids. Involve them to talk about this. It will be a great opportunity, and it's actually a quality family time together too, right? Okay. Okay, so I think next slide should be Q&A. And since I mentioned before, usually, well, we only have 10 minutes left. Wow. Okay. So before I mentioned, like, usually we have parents in person with their kids so they can really discuss this. Since we are doing online today, and I believe many parents will think about, so what would be some appropriate reward or consequence? I would love for parents to put down your ideas in the chat. And since we have so many parents today, right? And maybe we can brainstorming together, right? And I see our age there from like babies 7, 8 to all the way to 20. So we could have many different kind of reward and consequence. Okay. And of course, if you have any question now, it will be also a good time. Feel free to just unmute yourself or just put in the chat. Oh, okay. So in-person sessions, that is a great question. We could definitely ask about this with Nancy, right? But for this circle, we have 5 workshops, and today is the 4th one. Maybe in the future, we can definitely talk about this. Hopefully, we can do it in the future. So what happens when they keep getting away with something like sneaky
Just
playing?
to add on to that, we did talk about doing this in person or online, and because it seems that some PTAs have tried to do some talks this year in person and had pretty low attendance, we decided we would have better attendance if we could do them online and record them so people could watch them later. That said, if you know that people would like to do it in person and we could get a good group, we could look at doing that next year, because I think we're still going to have our connection with Chinatown Service Center. So that would be a good thing we could start up next year. Oh, with your kids? Well, and you bring the kids, right?
Yes.
So we could definitely do that. We just want to make sure it's going to have a good attendance, I guess, because sometimes we do these things and we don't have great attendance in person these days after COVID. But if you feel that you've got a group of parents who would be into it, please let your PTA know, or you can email me. I can put my email in the chat, and we can try and set it up for next year for sure.
Okay. So I see there's one parent asked about what happened if they keep getting away with something like sneaking playing on the tablet when we are not watching. Okay, that's actually a great one. My 5-year-old already know how to do that. Amazing, right? 5-year-old. So there's a few ways you can do it. One thing, make sure they don't get the tablet when it's not their time, right? Or parents, since you talk about the sneaking the play, then you realize that later, you can still conduct a consequence. Okay, you can pull them down, tell them, I noticed this. I don't know when, but I know this because there's a history of playing, right? So you can still conduct that consequence, but you definitely pull them down and tell them how you know, and then and you realize they are doing this, and ask them. Okay, so they still can do it. Okay. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like we said, it's about teaching them to be honest, respectful. So
Account for
definitely,
their
yeah,
behavior.
accountable for their behavior. So definitely have that conversation with your kid. And it's also a good time to discuss like the rules about, tablet time at home. Something like what makes them do that. I know nowadays kids love just playing tablet and all those, right? But at the same time, like there should be some conversation around that, like how many time is allowed. Um, Also listen to them, like how many time they want. You don't have to like um, compromise right away, but just listening to them. Maybe kids they want to connect with their like peers or something like that. So I guess like listening to them and having that conversation, understanding them is really important.
Okay. And next one, Jimmy, how about sibling rivalry? How to best handle it? Okay. So does that mean that you mean sibling fighting each other's? And how to set up that reward and consequence? I hope I'm understand your question correctly. But for this one, yeah, again, I think it's also very important to have the siblings sit down together with parents, right? And then before sit down, I think parents, I would like you to also think about, well, how specific you want them to be. What's the behavior you want to see? Okay. For example, instead of saying, I don't want to see you two yelling at each other, you can say, I expect to see you guys communicate in a peaceful tone. Okay. And then the kids might talk about, so what's the peaceful tone? Right? Talk about your expectation and their expectation. Or I expect you to keep your hands to yourself when you are spending time with your siblings. Okay. So it really depends on the age of the siblings also, right? And then talk about this. So, and then same thing, reward and consequence, right? We talk about specific behavior we want them to be, and then we talk about the reward. And now they actually have a common motivation to do it, because if the reward they both want it or they all want it, then they become allies, not enemies, right? Because they all maybe at the weekend, if everyone's using calm tone to talk to each other, then at the weekend we can have ice cream together or everyone get to pick a movie together, something like that. Okay. That could be the common reward they both wanted. Okay. And the consequence. What happened if they really have that verbal argument, even or they didn't keep their hands to themselves and they accidentally put their hands on their brother's face or on the thing. So when they do that, what's the consequence? They don't get to play video game for the rest of the week, or they have to hug each other and say, I'm sorry. Well, okay, so it really depends the age and how you think about it. But definitely, I would definitely encourage this. Actually, is also a great opportunity for them, everyone together, to have a conversation. But mom and dad, definitely you need to think about what's the specific behavior you want first. Okay. And one thing at a time. Remember, one thing at a time. Okay.
I also want to add on for the sibling rivalry. It depends on the age gap, maybe some different genders, things like that. But also, if there's a lot of arguments and things like that, I would really be curious what are some things each child may need. Are they like fighting for attention, or they feel, jealousy or whatever reasons that cause the sibling rivalry? Something about that is like plan that one-on-one time with every sibling is really important. Listening to them, what are some needs, some feelings they may have. I think that's makes the connection between parents with each child really special, right? So they might can divert that if it's for attention, it may be like divert that to the aggression towards siblings. Maybe they're looking for attention from parents instead. So that's also something I think about, like sibling rivalry. Also to treat each person differently. Like we talk about, each child is very different, right? Even in the same household, there can be, you know, different personalities. So of course, as parents, like you know your kids the best, so you know how to accommodate that. At the same time, like putting on that rule that may work for everybody in the household. But I agree with Xiaowen, it's a good chance to teach them to kind of like compromise, not with the authoritative figures, but with, you know, somebody who's like siblings, they have like similar kind of power in a household, like how to compromise and come up with some solutions altogether. Yeah.
Okay, so I see there's another questions, but because we don't have a lot of time, only 2 minutes left, so I'll just quickly address like, so when you are in a hurry and your time is not a lot, right? But the point is not resolve it quickly. I'm sorry. The point is not resolve it. We still want to keep the kids accountable for their behavior, right? So we can definitely point out at the same time, tell them this is against the house rule or this is against the agreement, right? We still want to hold you accountable, but because we are in a such limited of time, we will do it later. Okay, we don't let it slide away, but we can definitely be flexible, talk about consequence, or we can right away. So in this situation, what do you think will be the appropriate consequence? Okay, we still want to promote that idea of like what's right or wrong or what's the agreement and accountable for the kids. What do you think, Eve?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely feel sometimes we're in a rush, right? Time constraint. But definitely tell the kids about, you know, this is something we will address later. If you have some time, you know, address the emotions they may have. They may feel like scared, and let them know there's it's not something you need to be scared. I just want to like have a calm conversation with you guys later. So I definitely agree, you know, that's a kind of good practice to, you know, put them at ease in that moment, but also knowing that we're going to talk about this later.
Well, we made it on time.
Awesome. I love it. It is. It's 7:30. I love it. Thank you so much as usual. Just in case everybody didn't see in the chat, I put in a few links for the Chinatown Service Center flyers. So if you do want some one-on-one talks, you can get all of this stuff here that they have on the screen right now. And our next talk, we won't see E again, but we'll see Xiaowen again. Will be May 9th about rules, rituals and myths, and we will send out flyers for that. But you can also pre-register here. And we always try to, if you pre-register ahead of time, I usually on the day send a little reminder in your email so that you don't forget to come. So please feel free to do that. Thank you all so much. I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you.